There you go,
Sounds good.
Alex.
Excellent. So yeah, I'm gonna pretty much do this in an open forum kind of way where I'll ask a question and anyone can unmute themselves, or you can talk in the chat if you're more comfortable with that. Sometimes people like to get their thoughts all written out that way rather than saying it out loud. So whatever you're comfortable with, we're welcome to take that, and I'll kind of answer questions as they come up if anyone has any. But I'd like to thank everyone again for coming to join us. It was a very, very exciting year being able to do things so differently and expand to a national kind of way. And having Joshua Benjo open up our conference was obviously a very, very exciting opportunity for us to have someone like that be involved with the conference this year. Now, obviously, this year was a little bit of a challenge because COVID forced us to change our conference plans only months before we were actually running the conference. But we did everything we could to bring together a conference that gave the same kind of feel that you'd get from an in-person conference as much as is possible online. So I guess the first question that I really want to ask everyone here is, what parts of the conference being online did you feel worked best? And which parts do you feel didn't work the same way as they were in person, and you feel like there was room for moving that on there?
Alex, there's a note from Rob Schmidt about having to register individually. Would you like me to answer that one? Because that was something that I looked after.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So Rob, I appreciate your comment, because it was also a bit of a pain to set up each of the individual links and make sure that they were correct. We lived in fear that we wouldn't have set them up and sent them to you correctly.
So much testing.
That's right. We set them up individually because we knew that not everyone would want to go to every session, and we also wanted to keep track of the attendees for each session. So in the future, we are hoping to find a way, as you suggest, that you can click something that says you want to go to all of them. We're learning as we go along on how to manage this technology, but that's a point well taken, and we hope that we will be able to offer that for the next time we do something like this. There's also a question here, and sorry, Alex, it's just that I'm doing all the recording. So
I'm just fine
yes,
with that.
we've recorded almost every session. The only one we didn't record was the one on mental health, so people could feel free to talk about any concerns that they had without worrying about that being recorded. That said, for that session, there's a Discord channel that's been set up that I'm sure Alex and his team will send a link to for everybody to join if they'd like to see the slides that Jen Schraft presented and some of the other materials that she had for people. The other sessions that have been recorded will be passed along to Alex and his team sometime at the end of this week. And Alex, do you want to answer how you're going to distribute those?
So what our plan is, we'll obviously be sending out just a kind of closing email later on today or early tomorrow. But after, it's going to take us probably about a week to get everything together, to get the videos together, to get everything properly set up and connected in the way that we want. And what we're going to be doing is later on in the week, or very early next week, we're hoping to send out an email that has the full conference proceedings, or it'll be at least links to the full conference proceedings, links to the videos and where they can be found. We're expecting to upload them to YouTube, and they'll be available either linked from our website, or we can put the links right in the email. And then, as well as the Discord link, any resources that we have on there, a kind of full map of everything you can access after the conference. So that's what to expect. About a week from now is what I would say would be the timeline. It depends on how long editing takes and things. Yeah. There we go, and you saw Rebel there. Now, did anyone feel, I know one of the big things that was kind of experimental on our end, that was really experimental, and I'd like to thank Emily and Colton for working so hard to get this together on there. But the online towns platform that we used, the Towns Gather platform, was an experimental kind of way to give a similar experience to the just walking around and interacting with posters that you kind of get at an in-person conference. And I was wondering if anyone had any thoughts on that, how they felt it worked. Did you have any issues with it? Were there ways that you feel like it could be improved? I'd like to hear about anything like that, because this was really a trial for us. We wanted to do something kind of new and exciting with that, and we picked something that hadn't been tried by a whole bunch of different places yet.
And again, feel free to unmute yourself by clicking on the unmute button on your screen so you can respond to Alex without having to type in.
Absolutely. And I see that the live camera requirement was an issue, and I think that was an issue for some. And I noticed there were now one thing with that is you don't actually need to have your camera on. I believe in order to do that, you were able to disable the camera during the presentation sessions, and I think that's something we should make clear next year, that if you don't want to have your live video the whole time that you're walking around, you're not required to do so. So I think that's something that we'll keep track of and remember, that we want to make sure that people are aware of what options they have with that. And I think that's an excellent point, David, that it's nice to be able to go and read. Sometimes one of the issues with live conferences is you want to check out the posters, but if there's just the present, especially if you might feel a little bit awkward walking up and you're like, I just kind of want to take a look at the poster. I'm not sure if I want to get the full spiel under everything. I want to see if it's something that I'm interested in. And that's one of the other reasons why we tried to alternate them, so that all the posters, there would be some period of time where they had someone with them that you could talk to, and other periods of time where you could just go up and check out the poster by yourself. Amun, that's an excellent point, and it's funny. That's something that I was thinking of a little while into it. That maybe adding some background music or some sort of sound to the background of that would be a good idea, because it did feel a little bit sometimes kind of empty in that kind of way. A conference is usually bustling and there's sounds in the background and things going on. What we'd want to check is we want to make sure it wouldn't interfere with the conversations that people are having. But I still think it would be nice to have something like that. And I know that that's a possibility that can be done there.
I'm going to ask a question of the people here, and that's if there were any topics that weren't covered that you wish had been in any of the sessions.
Yes, because one thing I know we considered different options for maybe having specific topics we focused on this year, and we weren't sure which specific ones we'd go with. There we go. And just reading through Rob's thing. So, coursework related subject. And that is something that we've noticed. We started noticing it definitely last year. I was involved with the conference last year, and the posters there, and it's gotten even more so this year. I think that machine learning really is such a burgeoning area in computer science, and it's one that's so exciting that people really want to present their research and want to get it out there. But I think it would be nice to have maybe even like a specific track focusing on other types of research, because exactly the app presentation that was given was an excellent presentation, and it would be nice to be able to have additional things outside of machine learning, especially because frankly, if so many people who are attending have a background in machine learning, we'd like to give them a chance to experience things from outside that as well, and the kind of other sub areas of computer science that are being worked on.
Hi, Alex.
Hello.
So I want to add a point about the variety of topics. I know it's like, that during the research, it's like a hierarchical analysis. Every part of the research is based on something. So for example, Brian, he started about figuring stuff from the heart to have certain cues. So my research is my back end. It's like the first pillars of the Brian research. Like he built his maybe model, like predicting certain factors or certain cues so that he can predict whether maybe this is something important to go for or just ignore. So it's like they are building on each other, but we have to see it in different perspectives, different ways. So I think it's a nice add-up, I think, to have multiple subjects in a conference.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good idea. And maybe what we could do is we might be able to have, say, if we have a presenter from a certain topic or something like that next year, maybe we could try and put some student talks that are that are the same sort of topic as that on the same day. So let's say someone's interested in someone's interested in mobile apps, and maybe we have a mobile app developer or something giving a talk or something along those lines. That might be the kind of area where we could also get some student talks in, or if we're doing something in bioinformatics, we could definitely get that as well. And there we go. We've got that here. And one of the other things I actually wanted to ask people about, and feel free if you're still typing out an answer or a question or anything like that, feel free to throw that in there after the fact. But the one of the things I wanted to ask about was the topics that we covered with the keynote speakers. Obviously, Yoshua Bengios was very focused on AI and the kind of future of AI. Then we had Ting's talk today was a kind of bioinformatics talk a little bit and focused on that. And then Sherry Shannon Vanstone's yesterday was about the kind of career and startup opportunities that appear in there. And obviously she's a background in cryptography, but her talk was very much about the movement, career kind of aspect of things. And I'm wondering if those are the kinds of topics. Was there anything in there that people felt was really like, I'd like to see more of that next year, I'd like another talk on that kind of topic? Or were there topics that you feel were missing from that?
I will say I was pleased to see that even though there was no connection, I mean, they hadn't spoken with each other, the panel today and Sherry's talk were very much in sync about looking for opportunities as they come along, having a goal, but not necessarily having a very narrow path to that goal. I thought that was really interesting that both Sherry and all the panelists today said the same thing about that. Oh, you're on mute.
I am on mute.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the big things that we've tried to do every year of CSearch, and we'll definitely be doing next year, is including a careers panel or some sort of panel about deciding your path in the future. Because one of the biggest things in a conference that's by students and for students is we want to be able to give people useful information that they'll be able to use. And we all know as students that one of the biggest things is trying to figure out, what am I going to do after this? What's my plan? Most people don't know exactly where they're going to end up afterwards, and don't even necessarily know what they're going to do next in their education. And so we definitely want to include that. And I see Rebel mentions in there that the biotech stuff is another interesting area. And I want to say that we've been really lucky at Queen's that we get to do a lot of that kind of biotech research, because we have a hospital directly attached, and we have a lot of computing labs. So we've always gotten a chance to get a little bit of that, and we'll definitely have some of that next year. We'll never miss out on some biotech when we're here at Queen's. Here we go. And David, it really is true. It seems to me, I mean, I'm not speaking from experience, I'm still a student myself, but it does really, really seem from the advice that we get from everyone that flexibility is a huge, huge aspect of being in computer science. That's the kind of thing that you need to be able to learn new things on the fly. And probably I would imagine that when you're applying, whether it's for a degree program or it's for a job, that you need to be able to demonstrate that I can pick up things, I can figure out things from new areas and learn different and apply different larger fields. That's something that was mentioned in the careers panel today. I don't remember who mentioned it, but that the nice thing about computer science is that you can kind of take computer science and take any other area. You can take geography, you can take biotechnology, you can take physics, you can take obviously there's some pure computing things like cryptography. All of these different things you can apply computing to, and you get into a situation where you can take a secondary interest that you have and work in there with computing.
As someone who hires and has been in the career area for longer than you guys have been around. I will say one thing that often gets missed in technical programs like math, computer science, physics, chemistry is any kind of course that teaches you how to communicate. And that came up in the careers panel today. I was really impressed with the people who gave presentations today. Clearly, you know how to do that. Take courses on presentation and, even more importantly, writing. If you go into academia, you will absolutely need to write grant proposals, and writing a clear grant proposal that follows the guidelines is the key to getting funding. You'll also have to write papers, same thing. Yes, they're technical papers, but they have to be written in a way that's understood, not just by people in your field, but by people outside of your field, because that's often who will referee your papers. And in business, you absolutely have to be able to communicate. So I know there's a lot going on in your coursework right now and in your research work, but take the time to find some courses, some way to learn how to communicate, both written and oral.
I second what you're mentioning and the importance of communication skills, Adele.
Could you say a little bit louder, Miriam? You're a little...
Yes. Okay, so can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I just wanted to stress on the importance of communication skills, and I'd like to share one suggestions with the students. Maybe for improving their communication skills, they can join one of the Toastmasters club. Currently, these clubs are still running virtually. They can join any club in any area in Canada or even in the world. So that's a great opportunity for them to just practice how to deliver speeches and will help in their presentations. So yeah.
That's a good
That's an
point,
excellent
Mara.
idea.
Yeah.
I believe it's Rebel, it's the Toastmasters, I think is what
Yeah,
is that
Toastmasters, that's
yeah.
right. And you know, I will tell you that everybody, it's the greatest fear, apparently, other than maybe heights, the fear of public speaking. So if you're not comfortable, you're certainly not alone. But in almost every aspect of life, whether it's giving a presentation at a conference, teaching a class, speaking in a meeting, or even giving a toast at a wedding, you are going to have to do some public speaking, and it's better to get some training in that, so you're not as scared as everyone is. Everyone is nervous about it, and it's a little bit easier when you're just sitting in your own home here and doing it. But honestly, it's the best advice I could give you is find a way, and don't forget about the written part, the written skills.
Definitely. I know I write many more grant proposals than I thought I was going to. It's not even really something you think about most of the time if you're doing an undergraduate degree. And then I move into graduate studies, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, this grant thing is closing in 2 days. Do you want to submit something for that? And I'm needing to quickly write down, okay, how can I make my research sound as exciting as possible, and really, but also needs to be understandable by someone who isn't even necessarily in computer science. And it can be hard enough to explain your work to someone in a different subfield of computer science. You know, you're doing biocomputing, and you're trying to explain something to someone who's in like a pure algorithms kind of area, and it's almost sometimes the more complicated ideas can be very tough. So learning how to make your ideas clear to people who don't have the same background as you is definitely a skill to develop on there.
And most university career services departments or other departments within the university will offer those kind of courses on written communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, writing can help with these things. But yeah, I agree with you, Alex. I'm writing my first research proposal for a non-technical committee for the first time, and I'm struggling because it's really
hard, right?
Yeah, you need to define all the terms and try to have a flow of ideas to explain your technical solutions for a non-technical committee. So yeah, it really requires a lot of skills.
And you know, we had a workshop earlier this week on how to submit a successful NSERC Discovery Grant proposal. And one of the things that was suggested, and it's the same for all of you as students, when you have a draft, give it to someone else to read to get their feedback. Don't be the only person that reads something you've written, because you can't see You can't read and write it and then read it objectively. So, you know, find a group of people where you can share those things. And especially, as Maram and Alex have said, if it's something that's not in your field, get someone else to read it to make sure that they can understand it.
And I think actually that's something that might make a good workshop next year, because we're always
Yep.
thinking of different workshop ideas, but just a specific one on writing grant proposals or writing applications. But those kinds of things are something that every single student needs to do at some point. And I think that would that be something people would be interested in? I guess is that something that people think they'd attend if they were we were offering it next year?
We get one yes.
No.
Yes. I don't know if people know as undergrads, I sure didn't, that was something that was going to be important. And, you know, my degree is in math. I spend almost my entire time writing.
Excellent. We do have a couple of yeses, and I think that is something that maybe if we're having a workshop on that, we should cover a little bit of how why that's important, not just how to do it, but why it's important and the kind of situations you'll need to do it in. Definitely, yeah. With online classes, it definitely is. It's much harder to get that kind of experience because you just don't do as many in-person presentations, and in-person presentations just don't feel the same at home. I'd probably, there we go. I'd probably be much more nervous if I was having to do this in front of a whole bunch of people. You know, as you said earlier, public speaking is a challenge. And David, actually, my undergraduate degree wasn't in computer science. Was an art degree as well, or at least partially an art degree. It was a mix of psychology and neuroscience. But I definitely found the writing skills came in handy when I had to write reports and stuff like that during my time in computing now. And I do want to also, we have the winners of both awards that we have to announce. And I do want to do that before we run out of time. So let me just bring that up here. And what we have an award both for the best poster presentation and for the best oral student presentation. And the poster presentation comes with a $150 gift card that'll be mailed out. It's actually going to be a Visa gift card, so one of the kind you can use just anywhere, and a $200 one for the oral presentation winner. So for the poster presentation winner, I'd like to congratulate Evan Bultman, who did his presentation on understanding the variability of skill in a complex domain. He's from the University of Toronto, and so he'll be receiving the $150 gift card there. And for the oral presentation, I would like to congratulate Eric Fillion, who presented just about an hour ago or so,
Awesome.
the Happy Transformer presentation.
Great, I'm very honored.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So we'll get your information and we'll be sending that one out to you, because I learned recently you can't just send these gift cards online. You have to actually they have to be physical things most of the time. So we're gonna get that figured out, and we'll get your information from you. Excellent. I'd also like to thank some people who contributed to the conference this year, because we obviously have a lot of people worked on this to try and make sure everything was a success. I'd like to, of course, first of all, thank Adele. She's from CScan, and she was absolutely instrumental in making this year a success, in pulling everything together. And I don't know how we would have adapted to all of this, the COVID stuff, without having her support there. I'd also like to thank, Maram?
Just want to second this and say, thanks a lot, Adele, for all your support.
You're welcome. I'm glad. It was wonderful to work with you and your team, and everything we've learned at this conference will apply at future conferences, right?
Absolutely. It's been a tremendous learning experience, and it's very different from running an in-person conference. Definitely being involved in that last year, I was expecting it to be more similar than it was, but it's exciting, and I think we're all going to get better at these kinds of things next year if we're running it the same way. I'd also like to thank my staff. I'd like to thank Emily and Colton, my logistics chairs, who were instrumental in both figuring out how we were going to structure things, as well as getting the building from scratch, the whole setup for online towns. So I'd like to thank them both for that. I'd like to thank Maram, our program chair, for organizing the kind of content we'd have at this conference. It was a really, really amazing job that you've done. And you had to change everything at the last minute, because right as we'd figured out what we were going to do, that was the week that everything went from, oh, COVID's kind of a thing, to lockdown. So you did an amazing job with that. I'd like to thank Alice, our marketing chair, who is the reason that most of you are here today. She was able to get the word out to everyone, and everyone who sees this is in large part going to be, I would like to thank her for that there. I'd like to thank Hassam and Wendy, both from the Queen's Computing Department, for their help and support, both monetary and logistically, in getting the conference set up. And I'd like to thank Doug and Kyra, our friends at DCL, for supporting this conference this year as well. Distributed Compute Labs is one of our partners from last year as well, and they've continued to help us through this year. Some of you might have seen them at the poster session. They had a booth there. So thank you again, absolutely everybody. It's been a privilege to get to chair this year. It's been very, very exciting. And we are still open to any sort of ideas, comments, criticism, compliments that you want to give anyone here. We can absolutely accept them through email after the conference is over. And like I said, we'll be posting things later on this week so that everyone has access to all of these videos. Anything you missed, you'll be able to go back and check out. And thank you again, everyone, for attending.
And thank you, Alex, for doing a great job as chair.